Hello, hello, everyone. Thank you so much. We are here with Bougie Girl Cyber Happy Hour, and we are live again on this Friday night for another Her Story episode. And we are super excited to have with us on tonight. Her name is Kimberly Spruill. And so, Kimberly, she is an author, she is a speaker, a mentor, and workshop facilitator, are just a few of the words to describe Kimberly. She is a woman after God's own heart who loves all things life, grace, and purpose. In 2016, after enduring a life threatening incident that pushed her closer to God, closer to God, she has never been the same. She's discovered her God given purpose. It was from that very incident that God allowed her to birth her first book, Grace for Purpose, Discovering God's Plan for Your Life. This book has touched hundreds and thousands of people. Since the launch of the book in 2017, Kimberly has participated in countless vending and speaking opportunities in churches, conferences, workshops, and nonprofit organizations, opportunities all over and throughout the United States. Grace for Purpose, Kimberly Spruill's passion is to awaken the desire within others to discover God's plan for their lives. As a workshop facilitator, Kimberly Spruill provides effective teaching on understanding one's true identity and encourages self-fulfillment that comes along with achieving God's ultimate purpose. Kimberly is a committed member of New Home Ministries in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where she serves as intercessory prayer leader, grace, praise, dance, a ministry instructor, along with a host of other roles in the kingdom. She enjoys singing and loves to laugh. But more than anything, her desire is to be pleasing in God's sight by living a consecrated life and bringing souls to Christ. So let's welcome to Bougie Girl Cyber Happy Hour on this amazing Friday night of Her Story, Kimberly Spruill.
Hello
Hey,
there,
Kimberly.
everyone. Thank you
How
for
are you
having me.
doing?
I
You
am
are
well.
good. We are super excited to have you on with us tonight to just share your story. And you have an amazing book called Grace for Purpose. So we're going to talk about all of that. So, how are you doing on tonight?
So I'm doing wonderful. I'm excited to be here, ready to share, and just pray that someone will be touched by what the Lord will lead me to share tonight based on my story.
Amen. So, we're just, again, thankful and honored to have you on tonight. And we know that you have a remarkable story of survival. Share a little bit about your testimony of overcoming and surviving domestic violence.
Absolutely. So I would say in 2000, I believe it was 14, around 2014, I had found myself in a relationship with a man that I had met online. It was an online dating website called Tagged. And at the time, I was just looking for a companionship,
Hmm.
somebody to go to the movies with, that type of thing. And so before I knew it, we were in a relationship. At no time did I pray about this thing and ask the Lord, okay, is this what I need to be doing? Sometimes we have our emotions and allow our emotions to just take over us, and we find ourselves just doing what feels right or doing what we want to do. And so that's where I was. And so I found myself in a relationship. We ended up breaking up over some time, and he had gone his way, I had gone mine. And not long after, maybe like a year or so passed, and he started to call more often, just really in a low place. And he was in New Orleans and I live in Baton Rouge. And so one particular weekend he asked if he could come to Baton Rouge for a change of scenery, that type of thing, because he was stressed out. And I was like, okay, cool, that's fine. Long story short, before the weekend was out, the brother found a job in Baton Rouge. And I was like, he got to stay with me.
Right.
And so again, never consulting God about this thing, and the entire time I was just really unsettled in my spirit, but I knew that he was having a difficult time. I just wanted to help him out. So the agreement was that he could stay for 6 months and then he had to go. Well, 6 months had come, 6 months was gone, and he was still there. Meanwhile,
Wow.
the first 8 months that he was here, I didn't have any feelings for him or anything. So the first 8 months he was here, he slept on an air mattress in my living room floor. He couldn't get into bed with me because I'm like, we don't roll like that. And so over time, the flesh got weak. Before you knew it, we were having sex.
Right.
And so initially, that initial conviction, it hits you like, okay, you are out of order. This is not what you're supposed to be doing, that type of thing. And so, dealing with this repentance, this fake repentance, oh Lord, forgive me. It's not true repentance. True repentance is you repent of it and then you turn from it. You go the opposite way. So long story short, one evening I was preparing for, and so even in that time, there's just certain dissatisfaction, I think that's a word, that was starting to hit me because I like, Lord, I know that you have more for me than this. I know that this is not the life that you have for me. I'm going to work. He's home. He had a job. He lost that job. He got another job. He lost that job. He had another job. He lost that job. And then he was just
Wow.
home playing video games while I'm at work. And I'm like, this is not my life. I know that there is so much more to this, but I didn't have the courage to tell him to leave. And I remember one morning I was on the way to work and I said, Lord, I don't know how you're going to get him out, but you got to get him out of there. I don't know how it's going to happen, but I believed it was going to happen. And so one particular night, he had gone out for drinks, and I was preparing for the very first day of summer school. I teach middle school. I was teaching ELA and math at the time, English language arts and math. And so it was my first time ever teaching summer school, so I was preparing for it. So he had gone out for drinks. When he had come home, I remember opening up the door for him, and he just did not look like himself. His eyes were bloodshot red. I remember saying to myself, this man looked like he possessed. Something was wrong, and I knew it. I just didn't know what it was. So I sat down, preparing my lesson plans. On my laptop, and he's in the kitchen saying something. Before I knew it, he comes over, slaps the laptop out of my lap, and he just started punching on me like a man. And I was like, what is happening? I was confused. I was dumbfounded. I just remember hitting the floor and just covering up to protect myself as best I could. At some point, I got up. I remember grabbing his forearms to keep him from hitting, to try to keep him from hitting me in my face. And so there was a struggle there, and then not long after, he had me pinned down on my couch. He was literally choking me to death. And I remember trying to remove his hands from around my neck and to do everything that I could do, but it's like the more that I tried, the stronger his hold was. And I just remember laying there, and I remember saying in my heart, Lord, this is my last breath. I'm about to die. And I remember taking that last breath, and then I was out. I don't even know how long I was out. I can't even tell you. And I remember getting up, I came to myself. I went to the restroom to kind of check, myself. And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to see. And I remember I had bruises on my forearms. I don't remember having any marks on my neck, but the several of the vessels in my eye had burst because of the strain. And so I was like, Lord, you're going to have to protect me again. This has never happened. And so I was confused, like, what is going on? But when I think about it, I feel like he knew his time was up. It was time for him to go, and he wasn't dealing with it well. And so I remember coming back in to my to my living room, and the fighting started again. At some point, he had pushed my head back into my bay window. I thought my head was bleeding. At some point, I thought my jaw was broken. It was just a whole lot going on. I'm like, Lord, I got to get out of here some way. And so at some point, he had gone and, taken a shower, and I literally just packed up everything that I needed for the first day of summer school. And I was exhausted. We had been fighting. I was tired. There was another part that there was a time where I did try to call the police. A lot of times, we call the police, right? Sounds like the best thing to do. And so when I picked up the phone to call the police, he said, well, who are you calling? And I was like, I'm calling the police. He was like, okay, you can call the police all you want, but I'm going to whoop your way until they get here. And then he said, as a matter of fact, I will kill you. So then I immediately put the phone down because I'm not going to test this brother to see if he's going to keep his word. And at some point he goes to take a shower. I gather all of my things for the first day of summer school. And I drove for anybody who's familiar with Baton Rouge, I drove to the Walmart on Segan Lane. I fell asleep in the parking lot. It just shows you where my mind was. Didn't even have the mind to go get a hotel room because I was that exhausted. I was that tired. I fell asleep. I woke up the next morning. I got breakfast. I went to work like everything was okay. But for the people who know me, my coworkers, they knew that something was wrong, because if I'm not smiling or laughing, something was wrong. And so I tried to play it off. I made it through. I came home that afternoon. I dropped him off in New Orleans and I was done. And so, driving back to Baton Rouge, just dealing with a range of emotions, feeling like I was free. I was done. I was happy. Then I felt angry. I was sad because I'm like, what did I do to deserve this? And how did I get here? And so I say all of that. So then I had to go through this healing process. And so one of the things that I learned from that is make sure that any decision that you make, you have got to consult. You've got to consult God about it. And one
Right.
of the quotes I have in my book is, no matter how big or small, consult God in it all. You can save
Right.
yourself a lot of heartache. You can save yourself a lot of pain. And at the end of the day, we have a lot to lose. I almost lost my life.
Right.
You can lose your mind, you lose time, you lose money, you lose a lot, your joy, your peace, when you do not consult God about your moves and your decisions.
Right.
Um,
So before we go any further, oh my
yeah,
goodness, like that was a lot right there. Just everything that you have said. So before we move further in this,
mhm.
can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear
Okay.
you.
So before we move further, I mean, just wow, just everything that you've just said to us. I mean, it was just like a whirlwind, and it seemed like it just happened in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
I know one of the things that stood out to me, and when you were telling your story, you mentioned about, you didn't consult God about this. You said you went on this platform, you saw this guy, possibly somebody you can get to know or whatever. And, just how important it is for us, especially as women, when we're moving forward in relationships,
Hmm.
how important it is for us to seek God and just in anything that we do, any major decisions that we're making,
That's right.
especially when we're going to move someone in our home and different things like that, to consult God, because a lot of times we really don't know what spirits we're dealing with, right? You were
Right.
talking about, as you guys, you dated for a little while at first, he seemed to be cool. Then he
Hmm.
comes back into your life and then he goes out drinking and there's just like this whole different man, like the spirit is on him. Like he knew you were trying to push him out, right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm getting rid of him tonight. He can't come back. I mean, and I think sometimes men can feel it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like,
Hmm.
I'm over, because things are happening in the house, right? Like,
Yeah.
probably a lot of dissension is going on and different things like that. I wanted to address something you said that, you're going through all this is life or death, and you're just laying there and you're like, God, I'm taking my last breath. And you said you got up and you said you took him to New Orleans. So you guys were, so was he there when you got home from work? And
Yeah, so he was here when I got home from work, and he had cleaned up the apartment. He literally trashed the apartment. Um, and so when I got home,
uh,
everything was cleaned up. His stuff was packed. I was like, you got to be packed up and ready to go by the time I get home, because you can't stay. Um, and so he was ready. He was packed up and ready to go. And I
you
drove him
felt
back
brave
to New
enough at that
Orleans.
time. You felt brave enough to be in the car with him. You just felt like you knew you were going to be okay being in the car with him from Baton Rouge to New Orleans to take him back to wherever he needed to be.
Yeah, I did. And of course, I was praying. I didn't feel like anything. The crazy part, I don't even know if you call it crazy, but even on the ride to New Orleans, it was so peaceful. You would have never known that we was just fighting the night
Right,
before.
right,
Regular, conversation. I was just like, Lord, I'm almost there. Okay.
yeah,
We're through Gonzales, we
yeah,
made it to Metairie, we made it to Kenner and all these
yeah.
places. We at the aunt's
Wow.
house, you got to go. So, I felt okay, to drive to take him back, because I'm like, I'm
You
to
can't
me,
stay here.
I'm like, no, you can't stay here, and at least I know you in New Orleans. You're not in Baton Rouge, you can't get to me. So
Right.
yeah.
I
Hmm.
mean, the thing about it is, I know you were saying that, when you got to work, did anybody say anything? I know you said they noticed you were off, but I know you said that your eyes, your blood vessels in your eyes were busted and stuff. I mean, so did anybody say like, girl, do you need us to get you some help? I mean, did you feel like going to the hospital? I mean, because you just seem like you just like this happened and you just kept moving like, okay, This
I
happened, but I'm
just
gonna
kept
keep
moving.
going.
And so the thing was, it wasn't like my eyes weren't blackened, but those blood vessels had burst, so my eyes were red, but my eyes weren't black. There weren't, other than that, there weren't any other like visible signs that something was wrong, except for I was down, And so they're like, "Miss Spruill, are you okay?" "Yeah, I'm okay." Trying to play it off, but I was
Yeah,
not okay.
of
And
course.
I didn't have just didn't feel comfortable sharing, because I'm a private individual. So I'm
Sure.
definitely not going to disclose to you what just happened the
Right.
night before. So I didn't tell anybody. I just kept on moving. And I was like, I got to get through this day to get him back. And then I'm going to have to go through the healing and deliverance process after that.
So, I mean, because it seems like it's like, wow, what did you believe that, and you may have discussed this in your book, what do you think God was trying to show you during that? Because it's like, it's like, even though you went through all of that turmoil and hell and just all that drama for that in that moment, and then, but you were able to drive him back to New Orleans, you was able to drop him off, you were able to do those things. So, what do you think God was really trying to show you? I mean, do you talk about it in your book that you wrote?
I think what he was showing me was that despite what has happened, I'm with you. I'm with you. And because I did not die that night, God had purpose for me. So there's something that I need you to do
Right.
in the earth. There's purpose for you to fulfill. And then, even as I shared that lesson, don't think that you can make decisions on your own. Yes, I snatched you out of the mess that you got yourself into because I have something for you to do, and I love you, and I still care about you.
Right.
And God is so forgiving, and He's so loving. And he's so strategic. He's so strategic. And
Right.
anything that we go through, none of it is to be counted in vain or as a
Right.
loss. It will be used in some way
Right.
to get you together and to help others. So that was a
Right.
lesson that I got from it.
Right. And that night of turmoil is for somebody. Like you
Hmm.
said, you're going through talking to different women throughout the United States. So that night of hell and heartache and destruction was for somebody, just to let them know, just the whole process, like you were saying, you meeting somebody, you think he's gonna be cool, you know what I'm saying? And he's, you guys can be friends, but he
Hmm.
ends up being somebody you didn't even know who he was. Like, wow, this
Yeah.
is not the person that I met. So, and I know you wrote a book in regard to, is the book about what you went through?
Yes. So the book is Graced for Purpose. There we
Hmm.
go. Discovering God's plan for your life. And I share that portion. The entire book is not about a portion of the book is about that encounter. But I
Right.
talk about how at the beginning of 2016, we go into the new year saying we're going to make resolutions and all these other kind of things. Well, I was like, I'm not making any New Year's resolutions for going into
Hmm.
2016. I said, Lord, I want you to tell me why you created me. What am I supposed to be doing with these gifts and these talents that you have
Right.
given me? And so he spoke, I heard two words. It was vision board. I was like, vision board. So long story short, I ended up gathering a group of women together. They made their vision board. It took me a little longer because I didn't want to just slap something on a board for the sake
Right.
of saying that I created a vision board. This is my vision. This is what I see for my year. And so I took my time, with it. And over time, the things that the Lord had me put on that board began to manifest, like speaking to women and mentoring young girls. That began to happen. And
Hmm.
some other things that I, had on the board, they begin to manifest. And so in
Hmm.
May 2016, that's where I almost lost my life. Um, I just drew a blank.
No problem.
so, so yeah, in May, that's when I lost my life. And so then I speak
Or you
about,
almost lost your life, not you lost
almost,
it. Right.
excuse me,
Almost.
get me together.
Right.
Almost lost my
Almost.
life.
Right.
Um, and so I talk about that, and I share in chapter 3, I talk about a much needed retreat, how, at the end of that weekend, I just needed to get away. I needed to get out of Baton Rouge. I needed to just be in a totally different environment, and so I had time to reflect. I got a hotel room. I got a king size bed. I got a rental car. I was just acting like I was a tourist, honey,
Right.
even though I went to, even though I was just right up the street in Covington, which was an hour away. It was a long enough
Right.
drive for me to reflect and to feel like I
Right.
was going somewhere, you know. And so I
Right.
treated myself. I did a little shopping. I took myself out to eat, you know,
Hmm.
that type of thing, just to get away. And then I knew when I came back, now this is where the
This
hard
is where the
work
work
begins.
begins, right? And
Yes.
I want to go back, and I don't want to, like I said, belittle your story or diminish what you went through, because it just seemed like it was just, just hearing what you went through, that, just that moment. Was that the only time that this happened? You said, when he came in, was that the one and only time, or did it happen any other times after that or before that?
Only time.
Hmm.
Only time, just like random out the blue. It was just, I'm
Right,
like, where did this come from? And so I
right.
knew it's whatever spirit was working in him,
Yeah,
definitely. And so we know that, the things that we deal with, it's spiritual warfare,
sure.
Um, and
To
so to
kind of
some
stop
degree,
you
I
from
guess you
getting
can say,
to kind of stop you from getting to this place of where you are right now. And
hmm
I know Beverly. I believe, I don't know if this is a relative, Beverly Spruill.
my
She made a
mom,
comment.
hey
Oh, hi, mom. And it says he loves us in spite of our mess ups. And that is so true. That regardless of what we've gone through, we've messed up. Like you said, you allowed him to come into your home. You guys
mom.
started sleeping together. You already know all of this is wrong. But you know
Right,
what? As women, sometimes we get in these relationships, and this is for any woman, it's not, it's not about condemning or looking down on you or pointing a finger like, oh my gosh, you're doing this or messing up or whatever.
right.
We're women. We all do certain things or whatever. We all have our moments. But, in spite of it all, in spite of what we do, good or bad, God is gracious. He's loving. He's forgiving. He's kind. And He
Yes,
allows us to go through these things in order for us to learn a lesson from it
right,
and then share our stories with a platform, with an audience, just like what we're doing right now, in order to share
definitely.
a story of survival. Because a lot of women don't survive this.
That's right.
They stay in that. And is there, and I mean, it's probably like an obvious question, but I'm going to ask anyway. Is there a reason why you said, well, let me give him another chance. I've never seen this in him before. That was just one time he was drunk. Did you ever reconsider or ever feel like, what, maybe I should give him another chance?
No,
Good.
ma'am. That was it.
She
That
was like, no,
that was it.
ma'am.
You had that one time, and then you got to go. And so I knew, again, that time period of the agreement that we had, for him to stay and then leave,
Right.
it had come and gone. And so I had already prayed. I'm like, Lord, you got to get him out. I don't know how, but I know you will. And I'm like, you could have gave me a heads up. I was
I,
gonna have to take this
I
beat down,
know.
you know.
Wow. Right.
Um, but yeah, so that was that. But yeah, there was no turning back for me.
Mhm.
Thank goodness I had my own. And so unfortunately it's
Thank
easy for us
God.
to be on the
Right.
outside and look in and say, well, girl, you need to do this, you need to leave.
Right.
Yeah, if you
Exactly.
can leave, get yourself out of there. But some women,
Exactly.
these men have control over their finances. They are literally in fear to do anything. They're
Exactly.
controlling, they've been abused emotionally, financially, all of these things. And so sometimes they can't just get up and go.
Right.
In this case, you in my stuff. You in
Right.
my house.
You had the option.
I had right. And so it's just, I think we just have to be careful about, how we speak, and sometimes just being so judgmental and, well, if
Yeah.
I would say this is what I
Right.
would do. But
Exactly.
honey, when I heard that brother say, I will kill you, call the police all you want. I'll whoop your ass until they get here. And as a matter of fact,
Girl,
I will
look.
kill you. There is no calling the police at this point, And so I think it's a
That's
case by case
it.
situation.
It is.
Um, it's
It is.
different.
It is different. And like you said, the blessing and the advantage you had is you had your own. And Sharice was saying we all make those decisions even after the red flags. So even after we see
Yes.
red flags, we're still making, sometimes we make those decisions anyway, like, well, maybe I give them another chance.
Mm-hmm.
This is a one-time thing or whatever. And you had the upper hand because a lot of women don't. So just a word of wisdom to women who may not have the upper hand, seek help from your church, from a neighbor, from uh,
Yeah.
any type of nonprofit organization. There is help out there. Call 211, and I'm sure, reach out to someone that you trust, that you can get
Mm-hmm.
information from. Look online, so you can get into a safe place, especially if you have children. You want to
Right.
make sure that you're in a safe place for them and for you, so you be able to sit down and make a clear decision on what to do next. Because a lot of times when you're
Absolutely.
in the midst of it all, we're not able to make the best choices because we feel like we don't have a choice. So
That's right.
and so now that you are thankfully, out of the situation, you're still working, you're moving on. So you finished summer school that summer, I'm assuming. So you just went
I
on,
finished summer school.
look,
I
you just
finished.
said, right, you're like, I'm moving forward. I'm going to go ahead and do what I need to do. And you
Yeah.
just move on with your life. And such an
Hmm.
awesome testimony of strength and godly courage. You just went on and moved on and you were able to do that. So, what advice or what can you share with women, in that situation of just your mindset? Because it's like you had some women don't have your mindset of just to be able to say, I'm going to move on. I'm not dealing with this no more. What can you share with the audience in regard to that?
Well, what I would say is it's important that we remember who we are, that we remember who we are. So even all of that, after all of that, I was angry. I felt a range of emotions, but I knew that I could not stay there. And I
Yeah.
knew that because God kept me, I knew he had purpose. I knew he did. I just didn't know what he wanted me to do. And so when you remember who you are, you remember that God has you here for a reason, then you have to make the decision to go through this process of healing. And so I knew that I had to forgive him. I knew that. I wasn't willing to live in a place of bitterness and unforgiveness and anger because those things hinder your progression in fulfilling purpose, right? We allow these things to weigh us down. It also hinders your ability to connect with people. If you have trust issues and things of that nature, it just really delays your progress in fulfilling purpose. And so I knew, okay, Lord, I was like, you know what? I give up.
I
I
surrender.
surrender.
Right.
Whatever your will is for my life is what I want for my
Exactly.
life. And I told God, I don't care what I have to do, I will do it. So, what did that look like? That looked like reading the word. That looked like prayer, lots and lots of prayer. That looked like lots and lots of worship. That looked like many days just laid out on the floor crying and getting it out. There were some ugly moments there. They were tough, but I knew I could not stay there. And so even in the midst of that, God just began to send people, even as I just began to seek him and get in a place of prayer and fasting, my appetite and my desire just began to change. So I no longer wanted to do the things that I used to do. So you wouldn't find me laid up with nobody. God is like, listen, I got your attention now. It's me and you. Your mama can't help you. Nobody gonna be able to help
Right.
you with this. You're gonna go through this process, but I'm gonna be with you and I'm gonna guide you. And so,
And
my
that's awesome
appetite
how
changed.
And that's awesome how God gets our attention. Sometimes we have to go through some of our lowest points
Yeah.
for him to get our attention. Like it's like, wow, I've been chasing after you for a while now. So no more distractions, nobody in
Right.
your way. Like you said, your mom can't help you, no one can help you. It's just me and you on the carpet.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get this done, whatever I need to
Yes.
work out of you. And that's such an awesome thing because a lot of times, you hear that phrase, it wasn't meant to kill you.
Mm-hmm.
But it was meant to make you stronger, and you felt like, Lord, I thought I was going to die. Like you said, I
Right.
thought I was going to die. But he's like, it wasn't meant to kill you, it was make you stronger. So you were talking about now you're going through the healing process because that's a good point, what you mentioned, because I've gone through heartbreak and different things like that. And like you said, holding on to that bitterness and that unforgiveness prolongs the process. Because I
Mm-hmm.
believe that I would have healed a lot sooner if I would have let go sooner. And
Yeah.
like you're saying, when you let go and surrender and be like, okay, Lord, I'm gonna go ahead and let you have it, then the healing process can start a lot faster. So
Absolutely.
talk about your healing process and moving forward after all of that.
Sure. So, the healing process is the portion of the book where I call it. So, this process to purpose starts with just being purged, right? So, this is the place where God has to literally strip. It's got to cut away at all this stuff. I got to cut away at this low self esteem. I got to cut away at your brokenness. I got to cut away at this anger. I got to cut away, of the things that he said to you to make you think that you're not worthy to be loved. I got to cut away at all this stuff. So, so it's like he literally did, like, I call it heart surgery, right? Because a lot of times we can just let these things build up. And so it's like a cancer and it starts to eat us up from the inside. And so I went through that purging process and I was like, Lord, I just remember saying in the book that he just, we know him as the master surgeon. And I just remember saying that he just laid me on his table of love and he performed that heart surgery. He was a gentleman. He didn't force me to do
Yes.
anything, but I just,
And he,
surrendered. God, just get it
yeah.
out.
Right.
Get it out. But it was a daily decision to allow God to
Right.
strip away, get rid of Kim, all of what you
Right.
thought you knew, all of
Right.
what you wanted to do. No, I'm getting rid of all of that so that
Yeah.
your desire is to please me. And so then what happened was
And
God
that's a
started to
painful
send. Okay.
process. That's a painful
Mm-hmm.
process. It doesn't feel good because like you said,
No.
it's a purging. You're on the potter's wheel. He's pressing. He's pushing. He's pressing all those things out of you that he no longer that is not pleasing to him or that's
Yeah,
hindering your progress or your purpose.
absolutely.
So it's like, okay, Lord, this hurts. Letting go of certain people, certain things, certain ideals, certain
Yeah.
mindsets.
Absolutely. And so from there, he started to send people into my life who were able to just help to kind of like build me up, even in my understanding of the word and certain desires that I had. I'm like, Lord, I remember, kind of studying these or, experiencing these Bible stories when I was young, but I don't quite remember them. And so he had sent me someone who I met her on Periscope. Her name is Shauna, and she came on with the midnight oil. And I just remember my notification went off. I'm like, I don't know who this woman is, but I'm gonna see what she's talking about. She was talking about a particular Bible story. And every night after that, she came with another one. And so God was literally providing what I needed.
Right.
And so even listening to Pastor Sam in the morning, with his prayer, listen to Bishop R.C. Blakes with his, talks about relationships and kingdom building and,
Right.
other individuals that were really just pouring into my life. And they were like mentors from a distance,
Yeah.
you know? And so,
Right.
I was just growing. I was growing. I was learning. I was excited. I mean, there were days and it was perfect timing. Although it was painful, it was perfect timing because it was over the summer. I had to go to work. I had none but time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had nothing
We
but
love
time.
those school hours. We love those education
Yes.
hours, right?
Come on. Praise
Right.
God for summer break because everybody doesn't get
Yes.
one.
Right.
So it was perfect timing. And, there were days where I would just literally sit in here just listening to the word, taking notes and reading. And I was like, Lord, I never read the Bible this much in my life.
Right. I never
But
prayed this much in my
I
life, Lord.
never,
Wow.
I know. But it was a beautiful thing just to see these things starting to break.
Right.
Just starting to break. And so I'm growing into Kimberly.
Yes.
Not just Kim. I'm growing into Kimberly. For
Kimberly.
the
Yeah.
longest time, when I would introduce myself, I would always say Kim because I'm like, well, Kimberly's too long. But no, Kim is associated with the past. A lot of silly, stupid stuff I've done, that's Kim. But this is Kimberly. So he's building me
Yes.
up into Kimberly Spruill. So I never
Right.
introduce myself as Kim. And most times I don't even like people to call me Kim,
Right.
to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's not me. I'm
That's
Kimberly.
the past. Right.
Yeah, that's the past. So that happened, and so I went through the season of being purged, that period of being
Mhm.
purged, and then what I'm reading and studying all that. That's the being prepared part of the book. My book is divided
Right.
into three parts, and then the third portion is being propelled into purpose. And
Yes.
so things were, opportunities were opening up for me to like speak.
Mhm.
To the single women at church about certain topics and being able to share my story. And I went through a
Right.
season where you hear people say that God will blow your mind. I'm like, we hear that, but what does that feel
Right. What
like?
does that
And
mean?
so,
Right.
right, what does that mean? And so I went through a season where I was literally the favor of God. It was literally mind blowing. If
That's
I had a
awesome.
thought that I wanted something, I had it. And he was
Yes.
honoring my thoughts. And I shared those examples in the book. It was like my winning season. And I remember one of the chapters in my book is called, what is it? It's my season. This is my season. And we know that song that Bishop William Murphy had, This is
Oh
my
yeah.
season. Yeah. So that
Yes.
was my song because
Yes.
it was my
Your
season.
season. Right.
Yes, for grace and favor. So the grace, I'm telling you, I had never ever experienced
So
anything like
awesome.
it. And for about a month and a half or maybe 2 months, every day I would see the word grace. I would see it, reading it somewhere. I would hear it. I'm like, Lord, what in the world? What are you trying to tell me
Right. What is
about
it?
grace?
Wow.
And so the grace of God. And so that's where I'm like, even when I started writing the book or was coming up with the name, I'm like, okay, that word grace has to be in there. And that
Right.
word
Exactly.
purpose has to be in there too.
Right.
So it all came together. But
That's so awesome. How
yeah,
God,
so
like you said, all things work together for good, right? Like you said, that word grace is coming up, your purpose is all these
yes,
things are happening, your season, everything is just flowing together. And I know, you know, like you said, this story it wasn't just for you, like they always say, what you've gone through is not just for you. So now you're able to be a blessing and to, like you said, teach Bible studies and, you do different, you're
yeah,
a facilitator, you're doing different things. You're a mentor, you're helping young girls and you're just being a
yeah.
blessing. You've written a book to share your story with others, and you're on Instagram. And so I know when I see you on Instagram, I saw that you talk a lot about self care, and that's something that I have a passion about as well. Self care, I believe, is so important for us, especially
Mm-hmm.
like you said, in order for you to have that mindset to move past this, in order to be healed, in order to be
Yes,
whole, in order to go through this process of healing, especially after a situation like that. Because a lot of times, you said you experienced it one time, but a lot of times women live this for years. They
yeah.
go through this. So, talk to us a little bit about, self care and why is it so important for women, especially women who've had loss or been abused, to have self care?
Well, I think self care. I did a series on self love, right? And so it's important that we love ourselves because it's just getting back to knowing who we are. So when you know who you are, then you can teach people how to treat you. You have a standard set for your life. And
Right,
so when people don't meet this standard, then most likely they shouldn't be connected to you. And so just dealing with you think about self-love, even for those who have been abused, a lot of times you're talked down upon. All right, you're made to feel small, you're made to feel insignificant, unimportant, that nobody wants you, that type of thing. So being able to think and speak highly of yourself is so important. We know that the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And so however it is that you think about yourself, that's going to manifest on the outside. And the reality is, a lot of times I can look at people and you don't have to tell me anything about you, but I can see how you feel about yourself. Why? Because it's the way in which you carry yourself. Are you slumped over? Is your head held down? There's certain things or body languages that I can see that lets me know how you feel about yourself. So thinking and speaking highly of yourself is important. Taking care of yourself.
right,
Um,
right.
it's important.
It is important. It's important to, like you said, self love, loving yourself, knowing who you are. And know you mentioned this earlier, just knowing your worth and your value. So I think a lot of times when we understand and we know our worth, we know our value, it's kind of easier, or uh, I guess you can use that word, easier, to make those type of decisions, to walk away from a situation, or to not tolerate certain things. Because it's
Right.
like, I love myself too much to deal with this. So I'm not going to tolerate this anymore. I'm not going to deal with this anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
so I know you talked about healing and deliverance were a part of your journey in order to move forward. Share with our audience why healing and deliverance is so needed in this particular process, or just any process of hurt or loss or experiencing some type of pain.
Well, it's necessary for your forward progression. If you're not, there's certain things or certain places that we can't get to in God if we haven't healed from certain things, if we haven't let
Right.
some things go, if we haven't forgiven individuals for what they've done, even forgiving ourselves for what we've allowed to happen to us,
Right.
or things that have happened to us that are outside of our control that we find ourselves in. And so being able to forgive yourselves, if we hold on to them, we don't grow. You stay
Right.
in a place of, you're stagnant. um and you're just not progressing. You're not growing. Your spiritual maturity is stunted. Your growth is stunted because
Right.
we're holding on to the things of the past. And so being able to say, you know what, I'm going to make the decision today to move
Today.
forward. I'm going to make the decision to deal with the issues of my heart. I'm going to make the decision today to do whatever it is that I have to do to move forward. And so even when I talk about domestic violence, we hear I'm a domestic violence survivor, right? And so what I like to say is that I am an overcomer, because surviving to me denotes that you just made it. You just barely made it out. You made it out of that thing. But
That's good.
overcoming is saying, okay, I made it out, but I'm healed from it. I made it
Yeah,
out, but I've forgiven whoever for what is.
I'm
I've forgiven
thriving.
myself. Yes. And so I think it's two different things. So getting women to a place of overcoming, I believe, is because we are overcomers. And
Yes,
we know that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. So when you
right.
share, your story, you help someone else overcome. So we want to get past just surviving, just barely making it out. Okay, you made it
Yeah,
out. Now,
right,
now what?
right.
So yeah, those things
So now
are
what you're now what is being delivered, healing, forgiving. And that was so good when you talked about forgiving yourself, forgiving
mhm,
yourself for the decisions that you've made, or ignoring the red
yeah,
flags, or just
yeah,
not tolerating mediocrity, dumbing down, or whatever the situation
settling,
may be, wanting somebody in our life so bad that we just
right,
tolerate whatever behavior, this bad behavior,
mhm,
just to have somebody in our bed or whatever. So it's just so important that we understand that, we all make mistakes. So like someone mentioned
right,
earlier, God blesses us in our mess ups, right? So he can still deliver and heal and set us free, even though we make these mistakes. Because as women, we do that. And I know you mentioned something before. You said, well, maybe I can help him.
mhm,
Maybe I know you mentioned that about your friend. You was like, well, maybe I can help him, let him stay with me, for a certain amount of time or whatever. We feel like, oh, but a lot of times we have to understand that's not our responsibility, especially as a
that's
grown
right.
man. It's like, you know what? You're a grown man. Thank you. You found a job and I'm super happy for you, but you can't stay here. I'm
You
sorry,
stay
but
here, baby. Ain't gonna be able
yeah.
to do it.
And I think a lot of times,
Yeah.
like you said, you don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. We don't want to say
Yeah.
that. We want to help. But I think a lot of times too, we just have to just say, you know what? I'm super happy for you, but that's just not what I'm gonna allow.
Mhm.
Have
Absolutely,
to,
I agree with that.
yeah,
Um, and I think another part of loving yourself is being able to say no and mean it. It's
yeah.
okay to say no. All right. Some
Right.
people, it's okay. Let a lot of women, I believe, they need to incorporate that word into their
Yes,
vocabulary,
ma'am.
because we cannot be everything to everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
It's
You
not my
can't.
responsibility. Certain things are not
Mhm.
our responsibility, but we take them
Exactly.
on because we don't want to hurt someone's feelings, or because
Right.
we see someone struggling and we're naturally nurturers and
Right.
we want to help. But
Right.
that no will save you. That
Yes.
no will save you. So
Protect you.
incorporate that. Let your yes be yes, your no be no. Say no and mean it.
Exactly.
And you don't have to justify it.
No,
Say it and that's
that's
it.
it.
Nope. Nope.
Yeah, be like, well, no,
No.
I won't be able to do that this time.
I
And
won't be
like
able to do it.
right, with a smile on your face, like, no, I won't be able to help you. I'm sorry. And you don't even have to say you're
And
sorry.
matter
Just
of
like,
fact, I ain't even sorry.
right, exactly. It's like, look, I just won't be able to help you this time. So, and
Yeah.
just like you said, and mean it and walk away from it. Don't feel bad about it, and
Hmm.
just move on with your life because it's for your protection, it's for your safety, it's for your overall well-being. And like
Absolutely.
someone mentioned before, that she said, Ruby said, "Get the book; it will bless y'all." And yes, Ruby,
Minister Maurice.
we are talking about. We're talking with Kimberly Spruill. She's letting us, giving us her story, talking her story about being a domestic violence overcomer.
You
And
got it.
and this is the name of her book, Grace for Purpose: Discovering God's Plan for Your Life. So, and it's so important for women to discover God's plan for your life. So, is there like a process, for women, or that you might teach in some of the classes that you help them to discover their purpose?
So I always say that in order to discover it, it starts with the desire to know what it is.
Right.
It starts with the desire to know what it is, and then, beginning to seek God. Like, okay, I know you gifted me with this. I know I'm talented at this, and I know that I can do this, but really asking him, what is it that you want me to do? It just
Right.
really starts with that desire to know. And so for
Right.
me, I'm like, okay, I need to know this year. This is the year that I need you to tell me. I don't care
Right.
about nothing else. My focus is
Right.
this. So
Right
just
now.
getting to that place where you desire to know, and really just being intentional about hearing, listening. You've got to have a relationship with Christ first. That's period.
Right. Period, point
you
blank.
know, to be able to hear and to receive what it is that he's trying to communicate with you. But I think once you start and you allow him to speak and you start moving toward the thing that you strongly believe
Right.
is your purpose, then things will start to draw. You'll be like a magnet. And
Yes.
so even for me, the
So
things
true.
that were in my heart to do, and it wasn't like I had to run after them. I just took the step.
Right.
I just started walking, and they literally just came and just hunted me down. And so
Right.
I know that I'm here to help others discover their purpose. I know that I'm here to share my, testimony of overcoming.
Right.
I know that I'm here to share how God will keep you in the midst of your singleness, and you don't have to
Yes.
settle. You don't have to flirt with the
Amen.
past. You don't have to dummy
Come
yourself
on
down. You
here.
don't have to get rid of your standards. You don't have to do none of that. Why? Because we are the prize.
Yes.
I'm
You
the
gotta preach
prize.
to the people. Preach to the
I
people.
am the prize.
Yes.
I'm the prize. You the
That's
prize,
it. That's
sis. You the
it.
prize. So we don't
And
have to
so
be
many
running
women
behind. Oh Lord, don't get me started.
look, and you know what? So many women don't know that. So many women don't know that they are the prize. You know, ladies, if you don't hear what she said it like 4 times. We are the prize. Yes, we are the prize, women. We are the prize. We are valuable. We are priceless. We are gems. We are valuable, whether we're single or married.
Yeah.
You don't have to settle for a relationship. You don't have to be like, well, I've been single for so long. You know what? Trust God's timing, trust God's
Mm-hmm,
sovereignty, trust His plan for your life,
mm-hmm.
trust that He knows what He has for you and that
Right.
He will bring it. He will bring it to you because a lot of times we're such in a rush. Yes, ma'am, you are a overcomer, Ruthie.
Yes.
And so I think a lot of times we are in such a rush because we don't get what God has for us, and then we get anxious, right?
Yeah.
We get anxious because it's like, Lord, you're taking too long. But a lot of times, He's taking so long because we're not ready. You know,
Mm-hmm.
there's some things
Very
in
true.
us that we haven't worked out. Like you said, we're not going through that purging process. We're not
Yeah.
allowing Him to purge us, to heal us. We're not
Mm-hmm.
allowing that deliverance. I know Bishop Sam said a couple of nights ago, we get out of one relationship and we get into another before we even had a chance to heal, just to prove to that person, oh, I'm good enough to get somebody else. I'm
Right.
good enough to be in another relationship. And it's not about proving to anybody else
Right.
you're good enough or whatever. It's about you being whole and ready to receive the love that God has for you.
Right, absolutely. And even in this, time of singleness, it's the truth of the matter is, for a lot of women, this is a depressing time. This is a miserable time. This is
Right.
a lonely time. But this, if you take some time to get to know you, all
Yeah.
right, before where my husband at, baby, you've never even been to the movies by yourself.
Right.
You
Have you
don't
even
know
gone out to
what
eat by
you like.
yourself?
Right. So just spend some time, get to know you, sit
Mhm.
down, deal with
Right.
those issues of your heart, deal with these insecurities. Let's deal with the fact that every time we look on Instagram, we see you turn to the side with your behind sticking out. Like, that's something that need to be
Right.
addressed.
Exactly.
And what type of
What is that
men do
about?
you think you're going to attract doing that? Why do we feel the need to do that? So things like that, that's a time of reflection.
That is
That's a
so
time
good.
of reflection.
That is so good that you said that because I think this is a perfect time during this pandemic, and that's what I was going to get to next. Like, what are you doing during this pandemic? But this is such a great opportunity to do self reflection, to do a self inventory, to say, what do I have that I still need to work out in me? What insecurities do I have? Am I still with the low self esteem? Do I need to lose weight? What classes do I need to be taking to better myself, to
Come
get
on.
healthier, to be better? So Lord, help me so when I leave this pandemic, I won't have a bad attitude. That
Right.
I won't be so, the way I came into this pandemic, So since you mentioned it, and let's just flow with that,
Okay.
what can we be doing right now during this time? Like you said, we're locked away. We haven't come out all the way. What
hmm
can we be working on to better ourselves?
One of the first things that I was dealing with was my heart.
Mm,
There's some things
yeah,
that I just don't like about me, and some things that are ugly in my heart that I had to deal with. And so, again, every day it's a decision to say, you know what, Lord, created me a clean heart, renew a
yeah,
right spirit within me. Show me. And God will do that in prayer. He will show you
yes,
those
yes,
ugly parts. And throughout the day, when certain thoughts come up, okay, I need you to work. We got to work on this.
oh
So
my
work
goodness,
on yourself.
so good,
Work on your heart. Work on bettering
so good.
yourself. Your time of reflection, like you said, look into courses. A lot of us, we see that businesses have popped up during this time. So those ideas, those journals, those ideas that you have tucked away in those books that you put under your bed, pull those things out and
Yeah.
start working on those plans that God has given you. This is actually an opportune time for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And so now it's like,
Right.
okay, I got your attention. I slowed y'all all the way
All the
down.
way.
Like y'all are completely slowed down. Take advantage of this time. Yeah, that's something that you can be doing. You can be working on that play. You can be working on that song. You can be working on connecting and,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
of these things. There's so much to do. And so I'm just like, I don't understand how people say, oh, well, I'm bored. I ain't got nothing to do. Yeah, you have something to do.
You have a
We can
lot
be
to do.
decluttering. We can be getting stuff out of our houses. We can be doing a lot of things. And so, for me, that time of reflection, that's a daily thing. Working on some things that God has given me to do, that's a new thing. Rebranding, that's another thing.
Yeah. Right.
Learning, the things that I don't know.
Yeah.
Just like there's a lot to do. There's work to be
Yeah.
done.
It's so much to
How
do.
to
Like
be a
you
better leader. That's
said.
another thing. I lead
Right.
and Lord, show me how to be a better leader. Show me how to communicate effectively exactly
Right.
what it is that I'm trying to portray to the people.
Right.
Working out. I've been working out, drinking
Yeah.
eight bottles of water a day and all of
Right.
these other
All
things.
those
And
things.
so we have a lot to do. So
Right.
no one should be bored.
There's no time to be bored, like you said, to declutter your house. Not only your physical house, this house, your personal house.
Definitely.
Decluttering those things like we talked about before that are in the way and stopping us from being the women that God has created us to be. Um,
hmm
Lord, why do I keep making these same choices? Like, the same personality. He might have different type of hair. He might be a different complexion, but it's the same personality, the same type of person. Why do
Yeah.
I keep attracting these people? Like you said, fasting and praying, getting before the
hmm
Lord, reading your Bible more, writing that book, that business plan. So there are so many different things that we can be doing right now in
Definitely.
order to better ourselves. And so if you're just now joining us, I see people coming in and out. So thank you so much. Share. If you all have any questions for Kimberly, this is the perfect time to ask
Yes.
questions. Please ask. Please get the book. The name of her book is on the screen, Grace for Purpose, Discovering God's Plan for Your Life. Please go get this book. And Kimberly, how can they purchase the book or where can they go to purchase your book?
Absolutely. So you can purchase the book from Amazon. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
And I think the Prime feature is available, but you can type in Kimberly Spruill, my name, or you can just type in Grace for Purpose and it'll come up. Or
Okay.
you can get an autographed copy from me. The one that you get from Amazon is not autographed, but it just depends on how fast you want the book. So
Yeah.
you can get it from me. You can email me if you like. Kimberly Spruill at gmail.com,
Mhm.
and then we can go from there. So, but yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely
The
available on
email is
Amazon.
her entire name, Kimberly Spruill.
Yes, Kimberly.
Kimberly. Her full name, her government name, the entire name. Look, at gmail.com in order to place an order with her signed copy of this amazing book, this blessing, this gem that God has given her to be able to help you to find your purpose, to walk in your purpose and in your calling, and different things like that. And so it's just such an awesome book to get. I will be getting my copy, my signed copy.
Awesome.
So, just super excited to just have you share. And if you all have any questions, please put them in the comments while as we're beginning to wrap up because we don't want to hold Kimberly all night long on this Friday night.
This
She
is
might have
fine.
somewhere to go, maybe. So, and
No.
you made a good point, just getting to know ourselves during this time, being able to spend time with ourselves. Do we even like ourselves? Do we even know what we like? Because
Right.
like you said, you made a great point earlier. You said, I don't like that about me. That's
Hmm.
this ugliness in me, and we have to be honest about it. About that, and for us to be transparent and honest and say, you know what, the way I responded to that, I didn't like that, or the way I
Yeah.
went off on that person, or the way why do and, a lot of times it's like, why am I hating on her? She's
Hmm.
leveling up, she's doing her thing. Why does that anger me? Why does that
Hmm.
upset me? And we need to really be honest with ourselves and say,
Yeah.
why is what she doing upset me? Is it because you were supposed to be doing it and you slept on it,
Right.
like you said, and so you missed your mark? Because if
Right.
you don't do it, God's going to use somebody else to do it. You
That's
know,
right. You're not gonna
you,
wait. Like I done
no,
gave you opportunity, but you didn't move in time. You're moving too slow.
you're moving
Next.
too slow. What did I ask you to do? So this is a great time during this time to go back and say, what did God ask me to do? What did He tell me
Hmm.
to do yet last year that I still have
Yeah,
not done? He's not going to give you the next step until you go back and do the previous step. So
that's
we have
right.
to, like you say, He's very methodical. He's very much an orderly God, and He will give us the steps if we ask Him. If we ask Him for wisdom, He will give us wisdom.
Hmm.
So as we wrap this up, Bougie Girl, it's an acronym. Bougie is an acronym, and it means bold, one of a kind, unbothered, God's girl, intentional, and elegant. And I know you mentioned earlier that you were very intentional on your path. So what makes you a bougie girl?
So, what makes me a bougie girl? I took some notes if you see me looking down. So, when it comes to being bold, I stand firm in what I believe. I share my story with confidence.
Mhm.
I'm transparent and I'm
Yeah.
not ashamed. I'm not
Right.
ashamed of my story. I would not be who I am today had I not experienced certain things. So,
Right.
that's what makes me bold. I'm one of a kind. There is not another Kimberly Spruill. You may have the name Kimberly Spruill. There are a lot of you out there, but there will never,
Yes.
never,
It's one. You're the
ever
one and
be
only.
another. Yeah, this one of a kind. My own personality. I'm me. I'm
Yeah.
me. I'm comfortable in the skin I am in. I'm unbothered. I don't worry about anything. I'm
Mhm.
unbothered.
Yeah.
I learned a long time ago that we cannot worry about the things that we can't control, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
things will happen. That does not mean that we're not concerned. It doesn't mean that we don't care, but we
Right.
understand, what can I do?
Yeah.
Lord, that's on you. You got it,
Right. You got
So
this.
I'm unbothered. Listen, you
Right.
got it. My daddy got
Exactly.
me.
Amen. That's
So when
it.
we go into God's girl, just like I said, my daddy, he got me. I
Yeah.
just am so grateful for just the hand of God,
Yeah.
being on my life and some of
Mhm.
the silly things, the just poor decisions that I have made. He kept me
Right.
in that mess. And so he cleaned
Yeah.
me up. He cleaned me up. And so I've experienced the favor of God, the grace of God, just
Right.
abundant blessings because I said yes and I continue to say yes.
Yes.
And so, yeah, I just desire to please him. So I'm God's girl. I'm intentional. I learned, like we talked about earlier, the importance of consulting God in all of your decisions. When I don't have a peace about a thing, I'm not,
Yeah.
I
Mm-mm.
got to wait. I got to wait till I have,
Right.
that peace. And so I understand the importance of moving according to God's will, being intentional with what you watch, being intentional about what you entertain and allow to feed my spirit. And then I'm elegant. I believe that I'm confident. I have my own style. Listen, I don't believe in revealing everything. My body, you're not going to see it because that's not for you to see. I understand whose I am. I understand who I am. And so I have this standard that I can still be
Yeah.
sassy. I can still be classy. I can be sexy and all these things, but I'm going to be covered up and I'm going
Yeah.
to move in grace. All right.
Yeah.
On to move in grace. So that is
That's
what makes me a
good.
bougie girl.
Is it. And that was awesome. You are totally all of that, every letter, every bit of it. And we are so glad that you
Praise
came
God.
and you honored us with your story and with just your smile and your beauty and like you said, your grace and your your transparency and your laughter, and people would have never known you've gone through this because you just have this spirit about you, like you're just happy, you're not bitter, like you said, God, you overcame, and it
Yeah.
shows, it's
Praise
apparent.
God.
Yes. And so is there any last minute information or anything, or how can we find you on social media? That's one thing we want to know. How can we find you on social media?
Sure. So on Facebook, you can find me at Kimberly Spruill, it's my first and last name.
Mhm.
And then on Instagram, you can find me at Graced for Purpose 5. Graced for Purpose 5 on Instagram. Yep.
Awesome. So is there any last minute words of advice or wisdom that you would like to share with our audience before we log off?
Uh, Absolutely. So know that even in the midst of COVID-19 and what we're experiencing, God still has purpose for you. So now more than ever is the perfect time to discover what you're supposed to be doing in the earth. Take advantage of this time. Seek
Yeah,
God. Nurture your relationship with Him where you feel like you've been distant. Run on back. He's waiting for you.
he's waiting
His
for
arms are
you.
extended. He's waiting for you. He's waiting for you. So run back to Him. Get in line with His will, and you'll begin to see things move in your life. But you got to make the decision to do the work and to trust His plan for you, because He knows what's best. So that's my advice.
Thank you. So awesome. Yay. And don't log off yet. But thank you everyone for joining us on Bougie Girl Cyber Happy Hour. This is Kimberly Spruill.
Yay.
And we love you all here at Bougie Girl Cyber Happy Hour. We are so grateful that you all join us tonight. Watch the replay. Share with anyone who needs to be encouraged. Share with anyone who needs to be inspired or uplifted. And just share this amazing story. We will be back on Monday with another awesome episode of Healthy You Corner. And I'm not sure exactly who is going to be on there, but we just love to share information on this platform. This platform was created to uplift and to encourage and to inspire women to help you to build up your confidence, because we are blessed.
Yes.
You can see my t-shirt. I don't know if you can see it, but this is one
Yes. I need one of those.
on the Teespring website. I will send you the information. But
Awesome.
we are all bougie in a positive way. So
Yes.
we are God's girls. We love God, and we're just so grateful. So you all have a blessed weekend. Thank you for watching, and we love you guys. Take care.
Love you.
Bye, you guys. Thank you for
Bye
watching.
bye.